another fun study week day study. Anyway, hello, welcome to my channel. Welcome to a study session where every Thursday we come together to study or focus on one book to help essentially try to make us better Kemetyw, or practitioners of the Kemetic faith in the 21st century. So I am Menyet, and we are still focusing on Egyptian magic. So we've talked about many different chapters, and actually today I feel like we're gonna get a lot covered. So Shimon. So we're going to start on page 109. Oh wait, nope, I lied. We're starting on page 108 because I remember last week I said, oh, we're gonna start with Ma'at and Ma'ati. So we got our Ma'at, we got our Ma'at candle, so we are ready to go. Sorry about that. So it will be remembered that in the MenyetAnkhEnMaat, it contains the so-called, quote, negative confessions, which is recited in the hall of Ma'ati, and a number of names of Neteru beings, the knowledge of which is most important for the welfare of the deceased. At the end of the chapter, we find the following statement. This chapter shall be said by the deceased after he hath been cleansed and purified, and when he is arrayed in apparel, and is shod with white leather sandals, and his eyes have been painted with antimony, and his body has been anointed with unguent, and when he hath made offerings of oxen and birds and incense and cakes and ales and garden herbs. I swear the Kemetyw are my kind of people, because I love cake. I'm having a fat indulging moment at the moment. So incense, cakes, and ale, and garden herbs. And behold, thou shalt paint a picture of what shall happen in the hall of Ma'ati, upon new tile molded from earth, upon which neither a pig nor any animal hath trodden. And if thou writest upon this chapter, that is so odd. This chapter, I want to say, it's probably supposed to say in. So I'm gonna switch it up and say, in this chapter the deceased shall flourish, and his children shall flourish, and his name shall never fall into oblivion. And bread and cakes and sweet meats and wine and meat shall be given unto him at the altar of the great Neter. Oh wow, everybody coming in at the same time. Dua Neter. MenyetAnkhEnMaat, y'all. And he shall not be turned back at any door in the Duat, and he shall be brought in along with the kings, or the Nasut of the north and the south, and he shall be the following of Asar, always and forever. Here then we have an excellent example of the far-reaching effects of a picture accompanied by the proper words of power, or the proper hekau. And every picture in the MenyetAnkhEnMaat was equally efficacious in producing a certain result, that result being always connected with the welfare of the recently deceased. According to several passages and chapters, the deceased was terrified lest he should lack both air and water, as well as food in the Duat, and to do away with all risk of such a calamity happening, pictures in which he or she, because 2021 we're equally represented, but so I see. Look, I was so busy trying to be funny, I lost my place. Okay, in which he or she is represented holding a sail, the symbol of air, wind, and breath. Oh, okay, so that makes sense. In his hands and standing upon his ankles in water, were, and he mentioned, see the vignettes of chapters, blah, 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 in the Purdom Haru. So if you look at it, you'll probably see the visual that he just described. Were painted in the papyrus, and texts similar to the following were written below. My mouth and my nostrils were open in Tattoo, and I have my place of peace in Anu, which is my house. It was built for me by the Netert. Oh, this is somebody I ain't never heard of before. Feel free to Google. We all know I'm a fan of the Googling. So if I don't know, I definitely try to ask y'all. So the Neterts here, unless it's just like a different version or a different spelling, but I literally have never seen this before. So it's Shesheta. So I guess maybe that's Sheshat, but Sesheta. 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 Okay. The MenyetAnkhEnMaat set it upon its walls for me. Hail thou God Tem, grant thou unto me the sweet breath which dwelleth in thy nostrils. I embrace the great throne which is in Ken. I don't know what is going on with me right now. I literally just said this a couple minutes ago. Kemetyw. Yeah, I thought it was Sheshat, but you know, I don't want to assume just because it looks similar. So that's kind of what I'm going for. But I think it's Sheshat too. It just, the way it's spelled is just kind of me. All right, so I embrace the throne which is in Kemetyw, and my pages are stuck together. I keep watch over the egg of the great cackler. I germinate as it germinateth. I didn't even know there was such a thing as germinateth, but germinateth. I live as it liveth, and my breath is its breath. And he says, Purdom Haru, page 106. But again, I assume that means you have to be using his book, and you don't know which one because there are multiple versions that he has out. Is it the hardcover? Is it the yellow cover? Which one is it? And Lord knows it ain't Faulkner because he ain't got no page numbers. I digress. But yet another exceedingly great mystery had to be performed if the deceased was to be enabled to enter into heaven by its 4 doors at will, and to enjoy the air which came through each. The north wind belonged to Asar, the south wind belonged to Ra, the west to Aset, and the east to Nebuhet. And for the deceased to obtain power each and all of these, it was necessary for him to be a master of doors through which they blew. This power could only be obtained by causing pictures of the 4 doors to be painted on the coffin with a figure of Jehudi opening each. So, okay, that kind of makes sense. So it's just like, well, just in case, it makes sense to get Jehudi, the like smartest dude ever, to come and help you out. So that makes sense. Some special importance was attached to these, for the rubric says, let none who is outside know this chapter, for it is a great mystery, and those who dwell in the swamps, i.e. the ignorant, know it not. Thou shalt not do this in the presence of any person except thy father or thy son or thyself alone, for it is indeed an exceedingly great mystery to which no man whatever knoweth. And then same thing, Purdom Haru, page 289, he references. One of the delights coveted by the deceased was to sail over heaven in the boat of Ra, so to be in the solar bark with Ra, which, I mean, that makes sense too, in company with the Neteru of the funeral cycle of Asar. This happiness could be secured for this person by painting certain pictures and by saying over them certain heka'u. In a piece of clean papyrus, a boat is to be drawn with ink made of green abut, and he... Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. So, a boot mixed with anti-water, and in it are the figures of a Set, Jehudi, Shu, Kepra, and the person who is deceased. When this has been done, the papyrus must be fastened to the breast of the deceased, care being taken that it does not actually touch his body. That's interesting. So I guess you have to like wrap it in something so it could be laid on the person. Okay. Then shall his spirit enter the boat of Ra each day, and the Neter Jehudi shall take heed to him, and shall sail with Ra into any place that he wisheth. You can't. So again, he's referencing there, page 162. Elsewhere it is ordered that the boat of Ra be painted in a pure place, and the bows is to be painted a figure of the deceased. Oh, in the bows, sorry. So make sure the person's actually in the boat, not next to the boat, under the boat, on top of the boat. Make sure they inside the boat. Very specific, which I can dig it. So how is this to be done? On one side of the picture, the boat figure of the morning boat of Ra was to be drawn, and on the other, a figure of the afternoon, and then thus the one picture was capable of becoming two. Oh, that's interesting. So it's like it doesn't matter what time it is, that you're still going to be within the solar bark. So, okay. And provided the proper offerings were made for the deceased on the birthday of Asar, okay. There's a little tidbit of information. And provided the proper offerings were made for the deceased on the birthday of Asar. Now, my question is it, because we know they use the term Asar when a person passes away, so is it on the deceased person's birthday, or is it on the first day of Repin Pet? So I think I would need that kind of clarification. So his soul would live forever and would not die a second time, and that's on page 212. It says, according to the rubric in the chapter in which these directions are given, the text of it is old, at least as the time of Hesepti, the fifth Nasut of the first dynasty, who reigned around 4350 BCE, and the custom of painting the boat upon papyrus is probably contemporaneous. Okay. The two following rubrics that I'm getting ready to read will explain still further the importance of such pictures. This chapter shall be recited over the boat 4 cubits in length, and made of green porcelain, on which have been painted the divine sovereign chiefs of the city, and the figure in heaven with its star shall be made also. And this thou shalt have made ceremonially pure by means of natron and incense. And behold, thou shalt make an image of Ra in yellow color upon the new plaque, and set it on the bows of the boat. And behold, thou shalt make an image of the spirit which thou dost wish to make perfect, and place it in the boat, and thou shalt make it to travel about in the boat, which shall be made in the form of the boat. Wow, I swear, if I have to keep saying boat. Whew. All right, so let's keep going, because they got it at least 4 more times. And shall see the form of the Neter Ra himself therein. Let not the eye of any man whatsoever look upon it, with the exception of thine own self, thy father, thy son, and guard this with great care. So like the picture of the boat. Then shall the spirit be perfect in the heart of Ra, and shall give unto him power with the company of the Neteru. And the Neteru shall look upon him as a divine being like unto themselves, and mankind and the dead shall fall down upon their faces, and shall be seen in the underworld in the form of the radiance of Ra. So I don't know if that would be similar to transfiguration, but I assume it would be, you know, through magic that transformation would occur. So 2, this chapter shall be recited over a hawk standing and having a white crown upon his head, over the figures of the Necher Tem Shu Tefnut Geb, Nut Asar Aset. It says Suti. I assume that means Satesh or Set. And Nebehet, painted in yellow color upon a new plaque, which shall be placed in the model of the boat of Ra, along with the figure of the spirit for whom thou wouldest make perfect. These thou shalt anoint with cedar oil. Write that down. So, we know that that's and one, it's authentic, as in it's something that they used back then, but then also when it comes to doing this ceremony for someone who passed away, you might need some cedar oil. And incense shall be offered up to them in fire, and feathered fowl shall be roasted. Oh wow, okay, so we gonna have a meal tonight. It is an act of praise to Ra as he journeyeth, and it shall cause a man to have his being along with Ra day by day, whithersoever the Necher voyageth, and it shall destroy the enemies of Ra in very truth, regularly and continually. So, I mean, if I'm understanding that correctly, so long as you're doing this ceremony and you put the oils and you paint the picture and everything like that, pretty much it'll last you a minute. It's not going to take forever and ever. I'm sorry, it's not going to wear off. That's what I meant to say. Many of the pictures or vignettes carry their own interpretations with them. The example, the picture of the soul hovering over the deceased body, which lies beneath it on the bier, at once suggests the reunion of the soul with the body, and the picture of the deceased walking away from the block of slaughter and a knife dripping with blood suggests escape from a cruel death. The picture of a soul and a spirit standing before an open door suggests that the soul has freedom to wander about at will, and the picture of the soul and the shadow and the act of passing out through the door of the tomb indicates clearly that these parts of the man's economy are not shut up in the tomb for all eternity. Okay, so what they're essentially talking about is this picture. So that one was the unification between the soul and the body, and we got the incense going over here. That's some tall behind incense. So the soul visiting the scribe Ani, visiting his mummified body as it lays on its bier in the tomb. So that's what that one was. So this is the second one. And this one, it says, Empu holding the mummy of the scribe of Ani by the door of the tomb, stand the soul and the spirit of the deceased in the form of the human-headed hawk and the Banu bird respectively. So the Banu bird we got right there, and then we got the human-headed hawk over there. All right, and then we got this one. And that is, it says, the scribe Ani passing through the door of the tomb. Outside are his shadow and his soul in the form of the human-headed bird. So the Ba. But the ideas which prompted the painting in the other vignettes are not very clear. And then he goes on to just say, describe the pictures some more. Okay. All right, so then he goes on, and thus the picture which stands above in the chapter where this is found, that of a cow having upon her head horns, a disc, and 2 plumes. So we've seen that version of Het Haru. I wonder if that can also be interpreted, because I don't recall what the cow version of Osset looks like. So I think that would be something I would be interested in finding out. So yeah, that And from the rubric, we learned that a figure of it was to be made of gold and fastened to the neck of the deceased, and that another drawn upon a new papyrus was to be placed under the person's head. If this was done, then pretty much they'll have abundant warmth throughout. Even like that which was in him when he was upon the earth. So essentially it's supposed to, like, I suppose, like, reinvigorate the body, give it energy, and so on and so forth. Now clearly this isn't, I don't want to say that word, this isn't literal. Like, you're not gonna put this papyrus and recite the Kemetyw and then magically the body's gonna get warm again. Like, that clearly is not, you know, what they're trying to say. But it's symbolic, the idea that, you know, you're not deceased, that you are, you know, warm and limber, and, you know, you are still a functioning being, even though it's not necessarily your body but your spirit that will be moving forward. And he shall become like a netcher in the underworld, and he shall never be turned back at any of the gates thereof. The words of this chapter have great protective power. Ooh, I like that part. So there are a charm of great importance. So that's part of this ritual. We're told, for it was made by the cow for her son Ra when he was setting, and when his habitation was surrounded by a company of beings of fire. Oh my gosh. Do you all remember, because I know there are a couple of cow personifications. So I'm trying to think of what is the one, like the celestial cow. The ones, and like on her body there are stars. I can't remember who that is, but that's who that is referencing. Oh, heh. I like the fact that I was right before I knew I was right. Okay, ego, calm it down. So it says, now the cow is, of course, Oset Het Haru. So that overlap, if you will. And hello. This is why you shouldn't drop things on your books. Take care of your literature. Both the words and the picture refer to some event in the life of Ra or Haru. It is quite evident that the words of power or charm uttered by Oset Het Haru delivered the netcher out of some trouble. And the idea is that it delivered the netcher and it was of benefit to him. Even so will it deliver the deceased and be benefit to him. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was Newt at first, but I don't think Newt is equivalent to, I wish I could, you know, like you're so used to Zoom now, so you're just like, let me just share my screen. I'm like, oh, I can't do that here. So yeah, because I totally wish I could just Google it and like pull it up as we're going, because I'm like, I know I saw one where it had like stars on it and it was a cow, but I know Newt usually does have stars like on her body. So I thought maybe it might have been a pre-dynastic Netert, but according to Budge, it was excuse me, the marrying of Oset and Het Haru. So I actually think that's pretty, I don't want to say interesting because I feel like I use that word a lot, but the fact that they kind of justified that Ra was saved in this kind of way, or Haru was saved in this kind of way. So if it's good for Ra, it's good enough for you. So I like that, you know, it just seems logical. All right, so the words of, or the Kemetyw read, O Amen, who art in heaven, turn turn thy face upon the dead body of thy son, and make him sound and strong in the duat. And again we are warned that the words are a great mystery, and that the eye no man whatsoever shall see it, for it is a thing of abomination for every man to know it. Hide it therefore. The book of the Lady of the Hidden Temple is its name. Ooh, I feel like that's something to like underline. The book of the Lady of the Hidden Temple. I'm like, I wonder if you can find that. Like, is that printed somewhere, or is it just there? He's alluding to it because he doesn't have any footnote or citation for that. But it's also a quote, so. An examination of mummies of the late period shrews that the Kemetyw did actually draw a figure of a cow upon a papyrus and lay it under the head of the deceased, and that the cow is the only figure among a number of the others which was drawn on the same papyrus. With the figure's magical texts were inscribed, and in course of time, when the papyrus had been mounted upon linen, it superseded the gold figure of the cow which was fastened on the neck of the deceased, and became, strictly speaking, an amulet, though its usual name among archaeologists is something in Greek. Wow. Hypocephalus? Hypocephalus. I think that's how you would say that. The figure on the opposite page well illustrates the object. It will be noticed that the... might as well show the picture. So that's the image that he's talking about. And I'm like, I'm like trying to zoom in without it being blurry. So it's like you got the solar bark over here. You got the cow. I'm like trying to see everything backwards, so I'm sorry. I'm like, there goes Ra. Sorry, I'm like really trying to see everything. I think it's interesting that, you know, that you can kind of put it both ways. Like, I like that. I actually feel like I want to look more into this. To keep warmth to the body. So it's due to the fact that it represents, so pretty much what this is supposed to be, so again, this figure right here, apparently is supposed to be the pupil of the eye of Heru, which from time immemorial, what is going on with me today? In Kemet was regarded as the source of all generative power and of reproduction and life. So, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like this is something we should probably use in some way, shape, or form. I'm gonna keep reading before I finish that thought. So the first group are the MenyetAnkhEnMaat, offering to Heru his eye, and a turret with the eye of Heru for a head, and the cow of Osset Het Heru described above, the 4 children of Heru, 2 lions, a member of the human body, the pylon of heads of Kemetyw, the nectar of reproduction, and Heru Ra. So he's saying that's what we're all, I just dropped something. That's what's all right here in this line. So then he says, in the second are the boat of Ra being pulled by Heru, and the boat of the moon with, then he uses Greek again, Harpocrates in the bow. I hate the fact that he's using Greek and now I don't even know what that is. So, something else to Google. In the other scenes, we have the Neter Kepra and his boat, Haru in his boat, and Haru Satesh in his boat. The Neteru, oh no, the Neter with two faces represents the double aspect of the sun in setting and rising, and the Neter with the ram's head, who is being adorned by apes, is a mystical form of Kenmu, one of the great Neter of reproduction, who is still later times became the being whose name under the form of, it says, I want to say Kanum, because that's the way it looks, Kanumis, and then Kanobis. All these spellings. So I want to say, it sounds like Kanum. Oh, that's interesting. So he's talking about that layer right there. And then if you can look, you could see like the double aspect, and you see the Kanum little, the ram horns. Alright, so he occupies such an important position among the magical names, which were among the Gnostics. The two following prayers from the, I really wish I really want to find, like, what was it actually called? I hate using Greek so bad. Like, unless I really have to. Oh. I think it's a crappy habit to pick up, yet, you know. It's like you gotta be bilingual or something. Not, I think that's exaggerating a little bit, but y'all understand what I'm saying. So the two following prayers will illustrate the words of power addressed to Amen, i.e. the hidden one quoted above. I am the hidden one in the hidden place. I am a perfect spirit among the companions of Ra, and I have gone in and come forth among the perfect souls. I am the mighty soul of... my page is being stuck together. Of saffron-colored form. I have come forth from the underworld at pleasure. I have come forth from the eye of Haru. I have come forth from the underworld with Ra from the house of the great aged one in Heliopolis. Ugh. I feel like I need to go back with this book and just cross stuff out. I'm like, Heliopolis, no. I don't think Heliopolis is a new. I can't remember which one it is. I need to get better at memorizing things. But I digress. I am one of the spirits who come forth from the underworld. Grant thou unto me the things which my body needeth, and heaven for my soul, and a hidden place for my mummy. May the Neter, who himself is hidden, and whose face is concealed, who shineth upon the world in his forms of existence, and in the underworld, grant my soul may live forever. May the great Neter in his disk give his rays in the underworld of Heliopolis. Grant thou unto me an entrance and an exit in the underworld without let or hindrance. So I'm wondering if this particular symbol, because it does say like you put it under the head, and it's supposed to keep the body warm, and it reminds me of how I've heard other people gridding their bed. So I've heard of people, like, especially with the selenite logs, and they'll like grid the 4 posts of the bed, and then they'll put certain crystals in certain areas, so it's like protection as you sleep, but then it's also kind of like, you know, you're supposed to use the energy from the crystals to kind of help you recover, recuperate, illuminate your dreams, you know, whatever your intention is. So I'm wondering if something like this, because on one hand, I'm thinking like, okay, this is supposed to keep the body warm when one passes away, but it's kind of like, I feel like in times of difficulty, or if it's something where it's like we've talked about this before, where you're going through a certain transformation, you're going through challenges in life and so on and so forth, like essentially a piece of you is dying. But I question, like, would that be something that we could use, or should we literally just keep it when people pass away? Yeah, it is a new, thank you. I thought it was, but then I couldn't remember, and I was like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. So, dua. So, I guess, let me know what y'all think as far as, is this something that we should leave just for when people pass away and essentially just kind of put it underneath them? Because I do know, clearly we don't necessarily have mummification right now. Because we live in the West, it's a different culture and time. But, that it's said to have that amulet, to have the papyrus of the boat and have it put over your heart. It's said to have this and put it under the head. So, but yeah, I like to try to at least question, like, okay, well, how much of this can we use now, or do we just kind of keep it all, since it is related to funerary things? So all right. Oh, I read that already. All right. So another chapter in the Purdom Haru was written to prevent the body of a man moldering away in the duat, and to deliver him from the souls which were so unfortunate as to be shut in the various places thereof. Yikes. So as you're traversing, we don't want you to get caught up. That's what I'm hearing and seeing with that one. Like, we don't want you to get caught up. So all right, so but in order to make it through efficacious, it was ordered to be recited over 3 pictures: a serpent with legs having a disc and 2 horns upon its head, an uchat or eye of Haru in the pupil, which shall be the figure of the nature of the lifted hand, with the face of a divine soul, and having plumes and a back like a hawk, and an uchat or eye of Haru in the pupil, in which there shall be the figure of a nature of lifted hands, with the face of the neter's neath, and having plumes and a back like a hawk. Of these things be done for the deceased, he shall not be turned away at any gate of the duat. He shall eat, drink, and perform the natural functions of his body as he did when he was upon earth, and none shall rise and cry out against him, and he shall be protected from the hands of the enemy forever and ever. Now, I'm like, I wanted to try to finish the chapter. I'm trying to see how much more. All right, yeah, no, I'm just gonna go. So, random thought. And this is literally just my random thought. You know how you just have, just like, I wonder moments? Yeah, this is one of those. So, I feel like I talk about death a lot, and I'm sorry if I'm making other people uncomfortable. And I think it partially has to do with the topics presented in the book. But I was thinking about that the other day, where it's just like, people are very concerned with how they die, as in, like, they don't want to be in pain, they don't want to suffer, they don't want other people to suffer, stuff like that. But it's kind of like, and again, these are things I'm pretty sure other people have thought about too, but it's just like, well, you didn't know you weren't alive before you were born. So I just think it's interesting, because clearly I know, as we are told by our ancestors, what the belief is as far as what happens to us. But I think it's interesting how you literally just keep living. Like, you drink beer, you work the fields, and you just kind of keep living the same life that you live here on earth. And I just think that's so interesting compared to like how other faiths believe. So like outside of reincarnation, you know, it's usually some, I don't want to say usually, I don't want to assume because I can't speak for every spiritual system, but a lot of them are just like, you're either going to be reunited with the source or you're going to some like good place. And I just think for us, it's just like our good place is to just keep living. Like, I don't want to say I find humor in that, but it's just like, I don't even know what word that would be. But it's just so different. So different. And it's just like, you have to go through this life and live a good life and make sure that your heart is lighter than the feather, and then you go, and then it's like you can go and come back and like talk to your ancestor, like your lineage, or you know, you could go till your own field. But it's kind of like, I want to say it is paradise in a way. So for those of you who've never watched it, there's this show. It's on Netflix. It's called The Good Place. It's a really good show. And it talks about, I mean, it's a comedy, but it's a couple of seasons. But there's this one part where they get to the good place. Like, they get to heaven, and you know, it's full of all these great people, and they're all incredibly bored with the afterlife. And it's just like, you know, I did everything right, and now I get to have parties every day, and I get to eat cake every day, and I get, you know what I mean? And it was just interesting because in the show, they solved this problem of the mediocrity of being in the good place. Like, it, you know, it just kind of was lackluster after a while for people, and they're like, you know, having a place of final death and resting. And in a way, it's just like, I feel like if the afterlife, according to how we say and believe, that, I don't want to say it could never get boring, but you know, like, life is never boring now, so the afterlife would never get boring. Like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like this continuation. It's like, well, let's see what happens next, or, you know, something like that. So, I don't know. I just think it's just interesting, the different views and how we look at, well, what happens to us, and like, well, what do we actually do after we depart this place? So Ma'akra says, it makes me think of how the book of Coming Forth by Day is misinterpreted as death, but really is about a new chapter of life and just preparing for it. We aren't a death culture. Air high five, boop. Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's so different. Like, I think that's kind of liberating, this idea that you're not dead. You're never dead. You never stop living, you know. And it's that same idea of like when we took science class, and they're just like, energy doesn't die. It transmutes, it transforms, like it goes from place to place, but it never dies. It may slow down, but it's very, very different. So yeah, I just had that thought, and I was like, I don't know, let me get this out of my head. So, read all of that. So the words of power, to be effectual, had to be recited over a figure of the MenyetAnkhEnMaat, which was to have 3 heads. The first head was like that of the MenyetAnkhEnMaat, and had plumes. The second was that of a man, and had upon it crowns of the south and the north. The third was like that of a vulture, and had upon it plumes. The figure had a pair of wings, and the claws of a lion. This figure was painted in black, green, and yellow colors upon a piece of anise linen. I assume that's probably like fine linen, like fancy. In front of it and behind it was painted a dwarf whose plume had plumes on his head. So they was digging the plumes. Like, welcome to the afterlife where you get plumes galore. Like, that was the swag back then. The afterlife swag. Plumes. Oh, I shouldn't be joking, but I think that's kind of humorous. These figures have been made, and we're told that the deceased shall be like unto a netcher with the netcher of the underworld. He shall never, never be turned back. His flesh and his bones shall be like those of one who hath never been dead. He shall drink water at the source of the stream. A homestead shall be given to him in Kemetyw. He shall become a star of heaven. I think that's kind of neat because people do that now. You know, like when people, they have programs where like you can be sent out to like the space station, and they'll either put your ashes out into space, or I don't know what else they do with it, or like, you know how other people also like name a star after yourself, or like, all right, it's cute. It's a cute idea. So it's a good idea, or it's good to know that that's not a new idea, I suppose. All right. Shall become a star of heaven. He shall set out to do battle with the serpent fiend Neku and with Tar, who are in the underworld. He shall not be shut in along with the souls which are fettered. He shall have power to deliver himself wherever he may be, and worms shall not devour him. Now, if that's not power, passing away and never being eaten. Okay, yeah. So, Heliopolis, city of On or On in ancient days. So, north of what we now call Cairo. Again, the words of power which come from this chapter to be effectual were ordered by the rubric to be recited over the figure of the netcher of the lifted hand, which shall have plumes, there we go with the plumes again, upon its head. The legs thereof shall be wide apart, and the middle portion of it shall be in the form of a beetle. It shall be painted blue, and paint made with lapis lazuli mixed with Kemetyw water. And it shall be recited over a figure with a head like unto that of a man, and the hands and arms thereof shall be stretched away from his body. Above its right shoulder shall be the head of a ram, and above its left shoulder shall be the head of a ram. Thou shalt paint the figure of netcher of the lifted hand upon a piece of linen immediately over the heart of the deceased. I'm wondering, I'm like going through this, I'm really wondering how full, like, maybe this is why they wrapped the people so, like, tight. Because it's like, how many things have we put over the heart already? Like, literally. It has to be at least 3 or 4 things that have already been either placed on, like, as a necklace or placed over the heart. So it's just like, this is a lot. Like... But, and then they do say, like, oh, it's not supposed to touch the person. So it makes sense as they're wrapping, they just kind of add it within the layers, kind of a thing. And it shall be recited over the figure with a hand like unto that of a man, and the hands and the arms thereof shall be stretched away from his body. Above, oh, I said that with the rams and the rams. And thou shalt paint the figure of netcher of the lifted hand upon a piece of linen immediately over the heart of the deceased, and thou shalt paint the other over his breast. So I guess one on each side. But let not the netcher, see, Sukati, Sukati. I'm like, I don't think that's Satesh. I don't know who that is supposed to be. Feel free to help me out on that one. Menyet needs help. But who is in the underworld know it. If these things be done, the deceased shall drink water from the source of the stream, and he shall shine like the stars in the heavens above. So, aka, make sure you got all this stuff wrapped up around tight with you, so, you know, you ain't gonna get got. Easy breezy. Long paragraph. Don't get got. Yet another example of the magical pictures of the Perdam Haru must here be given. The vignette in this long behind Roman numeral chapter contains pictures of 7 cows and their bulls and of 4 rudders. The 7 cows have reference to the 7 Het Haru Netert, and the bull is, of course, a form of Ra, and the 4 rudders refer to the 4 quarters of the earth and to the 4 cardinal points. The text of the chapter contains the names of the cows and of the bull and of the rudders and certain prayers for I always struggle with this word, sepulchral, oh my god, Sepulchral. And I'm like, I've heard that word so many times, but ask me how to pronounce it. Sepulchral. I feel like it's just one of those words that it's like you just have to say it extra slow. Now the deceased would be provided with the abundance of food regularly and continually forever if the following things were done for him. Figures of the cows and their bull and their rudders were to be painted in colors upon a board, and when Ra rose upon them, the friends of the deceased were to place offerings before them. These offerings would be received mystically by the Neter and the Neteru. The Neteru and the Net. How do I say plural women again? Netertu? Feel free to correct Menyet. Help me! I gotta make myself laugh, y'all. So, moreover, if this is done, we are told Ra shall be a rudder for the deceased, and he shall be strength protecting him, and shall make an end of all enemies for him in the underworld, in heaven, and upon the earth, and in every place where one might enter. So, no lie, I'm low-key a little bored with this chapter, because I feel like it's a whole lot of repeating, but not, I don't know. I'm like, let me see if I could skip ahead. See, and of course I only look one page, and I'm just like, oh, what's that? See, look, this is why you can't skip nothing. Oh, boy. I ain't even gonna skip nothing. I lied. Alright, so we have seen above in the description of the amulets where the Kemetyw used how both the substance of the amulet and the words which were inscribed upon it possessed magical powers. But we may learn from several instances given in the papyri that the written words alone were sufficient in some cases to produce remarkable effects. This is, of course, a very natural development, and charms or words of power which needed nothing but to be written on papyrus or linen to produce a magical effect would be popular with all classes of men and women, especially among the poor and the ignorant. I'm like, I went to go pronounce that, and then I was just like, but can I get it in English though? Yo, oh my gosh. I really need to step my cookies up when it comes to the sesh meta-nature. Like, I really do fight it. I was like, but can we just write it in English? And it's like, no, you can't, but damn it if I don't keep wanting to. Oh my gosh. Dua Kurti. Look, I have to admit my fallibilities right here, because it's like, how am I supposed to pronounce that? So I got Netrut. Is that right? Okay, I'm going to take that heart as a yes. Dua. was like, yes. Yes, I'm correct. Validate me, please. Anyways, all right. Get it together. All right, so, no. I'm so confused. See? Okay. I'm not the only one. I'm like, we all students here, so it's okay. We all students. We all trying to learn. So, let me keep going. So this is, of course, a very natural development, and charms and words of power were needed, but nothing but written on papyrus. The written word had been regarded in the East with reverence from time immemorial, keep mispronouncing that word, and a copy of a sacred writing or text is worn or carried about to this day. Now, mind you, he's talking about, yeah, Kemetyw is the advanced one. Like, anytime she says something, I'll be like, yeah, that's right. Her study skills is like, boop, 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 boop. I'm just like, I want to be like you. So, copy sacred writer text is worn or carried about on this day. Oh, so I was saying, keep in mind, this is from 1900 when he says it's still done to this day. So in 2021, maybe it is, maybe it's not. We need to find out. But as of 1900, they were still doing this practice or abiding by this practice. A copy of a sacred writing or text is worn or carried, blah, 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 with much the same ideas and beliefs about its power to protect as in earliest times. In ancient Kemet, the whole Perdam Haru, as well as the various sections of it, which are usually copied on papyri, consisted of a series of hekau, and the modern Kemetyw looked upon the Quran in the same light as his ancestor looked upon the older work. A curious passage in the text inscribed on the inside of the pyramid of Unas reads, "The bone and flesh which possess no writing are wretched, but behold, the writing of Unas is under the great seal, and behold, it is not under the little seal." It is difficult to explain the passage fully, but there is no doubt that there had been an allusion to the custom of placed writings believed to be possessed of magical powers on the deceased. No, you would, I don't even want to hear it. You advanced enough to have your notes out. Okay? Where is Menyet's notes? In Kemetyw's notebook. Oh, that's how that's going tonight. Certain passages or sections of the religious books of ancient nations have always been held to be of more importance than others, and considering the great length of such compositions, this is not to be wondered at. Among the Kemetyw, two forms of the Perdam Haru were used, and there is no doubt whatever that the shorter form, as back as the first dynasty, about BCE 4300, was intended to be the summary of the whole work, and that the recital of it was held to be as efficacious as the recital of all the rest of it. So then the footnote says, in a similar way, the Arabs attach as much importance to the Fatha, or opening chapter in the chapter which declares the unity of God, as to the rest of the Quran. I'm not learned enough in Islam, so I'm just going to have to take Budge on that without commentary. Okay. I'm like trying to make sure I'm keeping my place, because I keep jumping all over. So it is interesting to note how persistently certain chapters and formula occur in funeral papyri of different periods, and the explanation seems to be that a popular selection was made at an early date, and this selection was copied with such additions or omissions as means of the friends of the deceased allowed or made necessary. One thing is quite certain: every person in Kemet died in the firm belief that in the course of their journey into the next world, they would be provided with Hekaw, which would enable them to make the way thither and unhindered, and give him abundance of meat and drink. They forgot cakes. I'm just saying. Like, when it's Menyet's time, I want a whole bunch of cakes, meats, herbs, and beers, and they garden herbs, y'all. I just realized that garden herbs, as the text says. Like, I'm just saying, like, if we gonna have this repast, I want people to eat. I'm no lie. This is like so random. I'm doing the most right now. But if I am to pass away, at an earlier time, not as I'm old, but even if I'm older, I legit want people to have a party. I want people to have I want a DJ. I want food. I want people to be in a good mood. I want people to celebrate life. Not to say don't mourn me. I mean, that's going to happen naturally because, human beings do what human beings do. But, like, I also like the custom. I had first heard of it, like, through Asian stuff. But now that I look at the funerary drawings, it's like, I don't want people to wear black to my funeral. Come wearing white. I want everybody wearing white, looking fantastic. I want, like, a runway show, a DJ, and some bomb food. Like, let me get some peach cobbler up in there. Let's have some red velvet cupcakes. Not even cupcakes. I don't like cupcakes. But brownies. Like, I want a party. Like, that is going to be an unhealthy affair. Then everybody can have a fast and cleanse the next day. In my honor, of course. I'm just saying. The Kemetyw was all about cakes and beers and meats. So I want to do that too. I want that. I got to make myself laugh. Oh my gosh. Yes, I want all the gluten. I want all of the high fructose, the sugary as sugar. I want straight. Okay, I'll draw the line at lard. I'll draw the line at lard and the porks. Okay, we don't gotta do that. We could have some vegan options. We could have unhealthy vegan options because we all know there's unhealthy vegan food out there. But yes, like I want it to be a celebration. Like, you see what the ancestors did. They put all these amulets. They did this. They went through a lot of trouble. So y'all ain't gotta do all that. Like, put my amulets on, make sure I'm good. Give me my Hekaw so when I'm traversing, I could go hither and thither. But I wanna come back and chill with everybody. Like, some cakes would be nice. So, I checked the time, and it is time to go ahead. So I am debating, because we have about another 100 pages to go to finish this book. So I am hoping, as I always say, I'm like, oh, we'll get done soon. And then it's like 500 years later. But hopefully we will be done with this by the close of April. And I am starting to honestly look forward to the next book of study. So I think next week I might try to come with some options and, see what people think. Excuse me. But again, since it's our time, please feel free to check out the YouTube, where now I'm going to start uploading, or I've already started uploading previous study sessions and making them in playlists. So the whole goal of this is Menyet, often, but pre-COVID, was in the car a whole lot, and I wanted like some audiobook type of stuff. So you know, you could put on the playlist and kind of hear the book again. You can always go back to it, and that's the goal. So technically I've already done 4 books, but I think on the YouTube I only have this one and one previous one, the Normandy Ellis book. But again, any suggestions, feel free to DM. Otherwise, I will hopefully see you all in the Facebook group, Kemetic Living in the 21st Century. And if not, if nothing else, I will see you here next week. So everyone, MenyetAnkhEnMaat, Sawek tu Mentempantir, Audwal Maketi Paru. Give yourself to Nature Daily. Keep yourself for Nature Daily. And may tomorrow be as today. Dua and Shamim Hatat. Bye-bye.
We the reflection of our ancestors. We'd like to thank you for the building blocks you left us. As your spirit possessed us. Show you